Good evening, Lisa.
Good evening, Andrew.
Are you being served? Founders Day.
I wonder where that was going then.
That was a dramatic pause.
Okay.
Yes. Our cats have got dramatic paws, haven't they?
They have got dramatic pause, yes.
Martha scritched my hand, didn't she?
Oh.
But that was with love.
Yes. And
Right.
she sounds like a little elephant when she's running around upstairs.
Mrs. Slocum's hair is orange stroke peach.
Yes.
Though the first you see of her, they're all heading off into
Into
Mr. Rumbold's office.
Mm.
Everyone's present.
Mm-hmm.
And
Just about.
just about. And Mr. Humphreys is correct.
Yes.
Mr. Lucas just about makes it in,
Yes.
doesn't he?
Yes.
And the roll call is done.
Mm-hmm.
First thing on the agenda
Mm-hmm.
is that apparently everyone's been tinkering with the time book.
Mm-hmm.
Because signatures in it recently have included Errol Flynn
Yes.
in Mr. Lucas's handwriting
Yes.
and Oscar Wilde,
Mhm.
which Mr. Humphreys has spelt wrong.
Yes. No E on the end.
Didn't have the E on. But apparently today is Monday,
Mm-hmm.
so they're glad to know this.
Yes.
But on Friday, young Mr. Grace reaches the grand old age of 80.
Yes.
Or, as Mr. Rumbold says, he's an octogenarian.
Yes.
And Miss Brahms wonders whether that means he can't eat meat.
Yes.
So they're going to do something special.
Yes.
And he wants some ideas.
Yes.
And everybody just stands there being a bit stumped,
Yes. Going.
aren't they? So they think about what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, a bit later, back on the floor,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Humphreys is totting up his commission.
Mm-hmm.
And he's up to £15, and Mr. Lucas hasn't done so well.
No.
So he wants the next customer,
Yes.
and Mr. Humphreys lets him have the next customer
Yes.
who wants
A handkerchief.
a handkerchief, and
A
that's it
handkerchief.
as far as we
Yes,
tell. So it was
yes.
hardly worth it, was it?
No.
But over on the ladies, there's a young lady in a sort of long coat with a little dog.
Yes, little sort of.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm quite sure what the dog it is.
And apparently the dog looks tired,
It does.
and they come to the theory that it does a lot of walking.
Yes, because she buys 2 sets of underwear,
Yeah.
one in red
Yeah.
and one in luminous green.
Fluorescent green.
Fluorescent green, sorry.
Yeah. So, but she wants a receipt, doesn't she, for
Yes, VAT purposes.
income tax purposes? As yes, this is going to be used for business purposes.
Yes.
That's all they really say.
Yes.
But,
Well, Miss Brown says, what kind of business are you in? And Mrs. Slocum, that'll do, Miss Brahms.
mhm. But yeah, they're still sort of talking about commission, and that was £60 in total, wasn't it? Which means Mrs. Slocum gets £3.
£3. That's like ridiculous, like 5%.
So that's 5% commission. Yeah. But then Tim Barrett turns up.
He does.
And he heads for the ladies, not the gents.
He does.
And this, of course, is Terry and June from Malcolm. This is Malcolm from Terry and
This is
June.
Malcolm number 2.
Malcolm didn't get his own spin-off series,
No.
did he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Malcolm number 2.
The second incarnation,
Second
of
incarnation
Malcolm,
of Malcolm.
who changed his appearance when Terence Alexander went to Jersey.
Yes, wants to do Bergerac.
Was it Jersey or Guernsey?
Jersey.
Right, okay. But he's after some fur coats.
He is. He wants one for his wife
And one for his
a
friend. Yes. So he's looking to spend £200 on
£200
the
for his
wife's
wife.
one.
Yeah, which is a decent amount.
It's going to be a surprise. And they have to get the key, which is up Mrs. Slocum's...
Yeah, it looks like it's in a stocking top.
not up her drawers.
Or
is
the
it?
bottom of her underwear, yes. One or the other.
So she sort of reaches up and gets
yes.
it.
And he sort of goes...
He looks away, he doesn't want to see.
Yeah.
But he's after a simulated mink. Is Martha exploring?
Martha's exploring the cupboard, sorry.
Okay,
That's
Martha,
the
stop
noise you can
exploring.
hear. If you hear more noise in a minute, it's because she's knocked a load of stuff down in there.
Yeah. But apparently his wife is similar shaped to Mrs. Slocum, which he describes as stoutish.
Stoutish. Yes, Mrs. Slocum does not take this kindly. She says in the trade we refer to it, sorry, as judo-esque.
Okay. But Mrs. Slocum puts it on to
Yes.
demonstrate. And then we're on to the second coat. And they've agreed between them that Mrs. Slocum will get commission for the first,
Yes.
Miss Brahms will get commission
For the second.
for the second. So first of all, they suggest one that's 40 quid. Dyed coney.
Dyed coney, yes.
And it's not actually for my wife's friend; it's for my friend.
It's my girlfriend.
And he just says when he says my friend, Mrs. Slocum does one of a, oh yes.
Yeah.
But yes, yes, it's his girlfriend, and he's looking to spend a couple of thousand. And they've got one for £2,100.
Yes.
This is an astonishing amount of money
for this at this time.
for now, isn't it?
It's
It's still a lot of money now.
It's still a lot of money now, yes.
But Miss Brahms gets to try it on, although Mrs. Slocum says it will look dead common on a
young girl. Yeah.
But apparently he's been married for 20 years and he's got 4 kids.
Yes.
And then Mrs. Slocum and Miss Brahms have an argument, don't they? They basically
take on the characters.
Yeah. So Mrs. Slocum becomes the wife and Miss Brahms becomes his
mistress.
Friend.
Yes. He actually says mistress at this point. Might get mistress, girlfriend.
But they argue sort of over him. And, I've given him all the best years of my life. And, and in the end, Mrs. Slocum takes it off the coat and stamps on it very firmly, doesn't she?
She does.
And she says she's going to get 5 detectives and a solicitor onto him. And so in the end, though, they
he decides to just take the coat for his friend.
Yeah. So his wife doesn't get anything, so she won't be suspicious.
Yes.
But they end up splitting the commission between
the wife
them.
gets 50-50.
Yeah. Right into the canteen. Mr. Granger's on the soup again.
He is. They say it's minestrone, but it's terribly black.
Yeah.
Just looks like
oxtail or something.
Yeah.
Oxtail's quite dark, but. He's not.
Might be oxtail,
he's not going to do his usual sort of dredging with a spoon or something. Instead, he's got a pocket full of straws.
Of straws, yes.
Plastic ones.
Paper ones.
Is it paper ones?
He says they go soggy. Plastic ones wouldn't go soggy.
Oh, they melt. Well, he said they melt.
Well, so, and then he said they go soggy, so they've got to be paper.
But and it's described as like seeing a North Sea oil rig, isn't it? As it's sucking it up. Although he almost blows into it at first, making bubbles. I don't know whether he forgets to suck rather than he blows rather than sucks, but maybe he's confused. Mr. Humphreys has brought a packed lunch that his mother's done, based on Moses, isn't it?
She watched Moses last night and she got inspired because he got bagels and gefilte fish and all sorts of Jewish delicacies.
So it was in Moses.
Charlton Heston,
and she hopes it'll be an influence on him, I guess. But they're talking about what was it? A tribe who.
Yeah, a tribe in Russia that lived to be 130.
And they have yak butter or something.
They have yak butter in their tea.
And they're virile.
And they're very virile right up to the end.
Yeah. Okay. So talk turns to young Mr. Grace for some reason.
At this point, yes. Yeah. Talking of the very old.
Yeah, and last year catering did his sort of celebration.
I think they went a bit too far, getting a topless girl.
Topless go-go dancer coming out of a cake.
Yes.
Causing his second heart attack.
Yes.
What was the first one caused by? Mr. Lucas ringing up, wasn't it? Saying he wanted to
buy the store.
Yes. Who was he going to be?
James Lewis. I'm guessing it's from,
all right.
Waitrose. John Lewis.
All right.
That's the one, sorry.
But
at that point, though, I did think of Matt Smith coming out of the cake
I did wonder.
In Vampires in Venice. Not from Venice, in Venice.
But they talk about maybe they could do something based on This Is Your Life. And what was it? They describe it as a show where you start off in short trousers
and end up kissing Danny LaRue.
Yeah, and they've seen it and they don't
like it. No.
So first idea is here is your shop, but that would involve getting everybody
involved.
Everybody else involved, and obviously they can't afford that much big of a cast. So instead they go for here is your department.
Yes.
Mr. Granger met young Mr. Grace on a bus in 1926. So, but Mr. Harmon's been earwigging, hasn't he? And he's been helping him to make stuff up for his memoirs for the last. He says the last 2 years, doesn't he? So Mr. Harmon's clearly been around, even though we haven't necessarily seen him.
No. Well, perhaps he was one of the, we got the top job when Mr. Mash left.
All right, maybe. So they smuggle Mr. Lucas in a tea trolley.
In a hostess trolley.
Is it a hostess trolley?
Well, it's not a hostess trolley because it hasn't got a cover, but
it's got
like a little trolley.
Curtains around the side, doesn't it?
Yes.
And young Mr. Grace's secretary gets a hand on the rear.
Yes. He pinches her bottom, Mr. Lucas.
And she says, "Oh, was that your hand, Mr. Grace?" Well, it sounds like me, he says, but it wasn't.
And he looks confused because obviously he's not been anywhere near her.
And he's missing his biscuits, isn't it? So the hand emerges, puts the biscuits and
takes the memoirs.
Steals the memoirs.
Like a thing coming out of a box.
All right, okay. Mr. Rumbold and Captain Peacock are sort of having a quick conflab, but they're all headed for the boardroom, aren't they? And Mr. Lucas is doing his best Eamon Andrews impression for the rest of the episode, really, now, isn't he?
The less said about them, the better, really.
Okay.
There's an accent.
But they have to do a set-up, don't they, like you do.
Mm-hmm.
And young Mr. Grace thinks he's interviewing a new secretary, so Mr. Lucas goes off to hide.
Yes, behind a screen.
Yeah. So young Mr. Grace comes in, and the supposed new secretary sort of says what her typing speed is and shorthand, and all he's interested in what are her measurements.
Yes.
And when she says what they are, she's got the job.
Yes, immediately.
Yeah. But she's only a decoy, and they reveal this, and young Mr. Grace wonders whether it's blackmail.
Yes.
But yeah, then everybody comes into the "This Is Your Life" music.
Yes.
I wonder if they had to pay to use it.
Possibly.
I wonder if they just sort of thought they'd get away with it.
Who knows?
But yeah, young Mr. Grace recalls it as that show where we start off in short trousers and ends up meeting Dan
LaRue,
and he didn't like it.
No.
But yeah, it's weird to think that young Mr. Grace was born in 1897.
Yes.
You know. How old is Harold Bennett at this point?
I'm not sure.
I'll have to check.
I'm sure.
I'll check.
He must be getting on at this point. He must be at least 80, if not older.
I'll check for when I come to do the write-up for this. But you see pictures of his parents, Henry Grace and what was it, Ethel, was it?
I can't remember now.
Something like that.
You should be supposed to write it down.
I wrote Ethel, but I might have misheard. But they've just got a load of like random photos now.
With Harold Bennett's face stuck on them, yeah.
So first of all, you see baby young Mr. Grace, which is the funniest picture.
The school one, I think.
All right, okay, but yeah,
the way the child's standing.
First of all, he's a baby with his current face just stuck on it, like. Because you always say about how bad Photoshop is in modern TV.
This is intentionally bad.
But this is just so obviously stupid. So I just imagine that they've like Mr. Lucas has been cutting these out of the newspaper,
just sticking his head on stuff. Yeah.
And apparently he came from a long line of cobblers.
Yes. Sorry, I've got a hot water bottle. I just pulled it out.
Right, can I have a go with it? No,
it's not very warm now.
So yeah, then we get the shot of him as the schoolboy with his hands in his pockets.
Yes. But he's sort of standing. It's almost like a Bobby Ball pose. You know, when he stands with his hands in his pockets and his groin thrust towards the camera. It's a bit like that. But it's apparently to stop his trousers falling down because his braces are broken. Yeah.
But his first job was an apprentice haddock filleter. And they've got an almost identical knife.
Yes.
And he was known as Fish Fingers.
Yes.
But then he had a fish barrow.
Yes.
And coincidentally, some of those fish might have been in Folkestone or something, where young Mr. Granger was in his pram. So there's a shot of young Mr. Granger.
Mr. Granger.
Mr. Granger as a young
as a baby.
Well, he's got a sort of hat on.
He has. He looks terribly silly.
Yeah. So they sort of greet each other and kiss, don't they? There's a lot of kissing.
Well, they do this sort of mwah, mwah. They're not actually kissing. They sort of touch faces.
Mr. Granger says this was really Eastbourne.
Does it matter?
Doesn't really matter. And he sort of says about how they met on the bus. And is it that Arthur Brackett can't remember the line because he goes, "I was embarrassed," because he gets a prompt from Mr. Lucas. I generally don't know whether that's acting or not, but he remembers how young Mr. Grace said good morning to him. but yes, it's that's the kind of man he was.
Mm-hmm.
And we get some footage of World War One, which is like
Yes.
really sped
Really
up.
sped up, and yes.
Young Mr. Grace says about people didn't hang about.
We
in
didn't
those
hang
days.
about in those days, yes.
But yeah, he did tin pilchards for the troops.
Uh-huh.
Apparently, even in the First and Second World Wars.
Mm-hmm. And there's some still in
And
the
there's
canteen.
some still in the canteen on the grounds of waste not, want not.
Yes.
Yeah. But Mr. Lucas says some of those pilchards might have been eaten by Corporal, and Captain Peacock's face falls.
Yeah.
Later Captain
Yeah.
Peacock, and then he cheers up a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the first mention of Corporal Peacock?
Possibly, because there was
It
more.
does follow
Yes.
on later, doesn't
Yes.
it? Yeah.
Yes, in a next series, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But well, no, I think it's a bit
is it
bit later than that actually.
Okay.
But
Oh, right, yeah.
because it's Alfie Bass, isn't it?
It is Alfie
Yeah.
Bass. Well, Alfie Bass is the first one, isn't it? Or is Mr. Tebbs
No,
the first
Mr.
one?
Tebbs is
Oh,
next.
Mr. Tebbs
Yeah.
is the first one, yes.
But yeah, he recalls how was he waiting in a bus queue or something?
Yes. And a car pulls up.
A Rolls Royce.
Yes, and he beckons him over, and he forfeits his place, only due to be told there'll be another one along in a minute.
Yeah. But in 1918, young Mr. Grace spent 8 years doing this, that, and a lot of the other.
Mm-hmm.
And then a remote uncle left him Grace Brothers in 1926,
Mhm.
which begs some questions.
Yes.
Why is it called Grace Brothers?
Mm-hmm.
Because you assume it's young Mr. Grace and old Mr. Grace.
Well, perhaps he changed the name.
So it's like Steptoe and Son.
Well, perhaps his uncle had a brother.
Because Steptoe and Son actually refers to the previous generation.
Yeah.
The son is actually old man.
Is that my stepdad? Oh, okay.
But yeah, so who was this mysterious uncle? We don't know. But yeah, 1926, Rachel Yiddle.
Mm-hmm.
We don't-
Everybody looks really sort of blank, apart from Mrs. Slocum, who's starting to look a bit horrified.
Yeah. Well, we've had her birthday one, haven't we? So
Yes.
yeah, so we knew.
Yeah, but they've all forgotten that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'd
But,
forgotten that.
but yeah, she was born in 1926, and then her and Miss Brahms do a thing about how they were stuck in the lift with young Mr. Grace.
Yes.
And he cuddled Miss Brahms for half an hour whilst they were being rescued.
Why Mrs. Slocum shouted for help.
Yes. But what was it? Save Mrs. Slocum and come back for me and the bird later.
Yes.
Was his advice.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get a little clip of Mr. Humphreys saying, "I'm free," and young Mr. Grace recognises him as the one with the funny walk.
Yes.
They don't bother with kissing as Mr. Humphreys has got a bit of a cold.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes a bit weird.
Yes.
As you get, they've got the film projector, haven't
Yeah.
they? So they project a film of Mr. Humphreys' mother,
Yes.
which is played by,
John Inman.
in a hat and dress and, well, sort of coaty thing, isn't it? Yeah.
I don't think it's actually a hat, it's just a wig, isn't
Is
it?
it? Oh, right, okay.
But I believe he probably did do cross-dressing things for pantomimes and things.
But it's not a... who's filmed this, first of all?
I don't know, they've sent someone around to
They've
film
sent
it. Perhaps Mr. Lucas.
Because although the film stock's quite scratchy, they're quite good at operating the zoom on the camera.
Yes, funny that.
Yeah, as almost as though they were a professional film cameraman.
Almost.
Yes, but yeah, it's all about how Mr. Humphrey sort of applied for his job, but was turned down at first.
Yeah.
But sort of his mother sort of says about how he'd sort of bend over backwards to help anybody, give him a chance, let him have a try, and so he did, which is and he's still here, and that's just about it. And Mr. Rumbold protests why wasn't he included, and he was told you were probably too boring.
Yes, and Nicholas Smith gets a good reaction shot to that.
So the final line is, "Here is your department." He gets handed the red book with it written.
It's a folder.
Well, it's a folder with it written on. Run the end credits, and Trevor Bannister's put in some funny teeth at the end, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Where those have come from, I don't know.
I was like, where did those do? You didn't have those in a minute ago.
But yeah, all right. Not brilliant.
It's not one of the better ones. It's got funny moments.
Yeah.
It's the whole sequence with Miss Brahms and Mrs. Slocum is very well done.
Yeah.
And a lot of the ballroom stuff is very well done. It's just a little disjointed,
Yeah.
I think.
But yeah, again, how much of the continuity ties up with early and later stuff, I'm not entirely sure.
Not very much, probably.
We'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, there we go. And what's next? Got the thing here. So after Founders Day is the old order changes. In a bid to increase sales, young Mr. Grace decides to try a new sales style of American informality.
Oh, is this where they all dress in their own clothes?
I like you, Stephen.
I like you, Stephen.
Okay.
I like you, Dick.
I quite like that episode.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Okay, so we'll look forward to that.
Yeah.
See you again.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.